And so, as Philip had mentioned, the county is embarking on a CASIF consortia grant application and has submitted that application. We had deliberated between a 2-year plan with requesting $1 million or a $500,000 application, and because the application was approved, the $500,000 application is approved at the ministerial level, and it's much more secure and likely that we receive the funds. The executive office decided to take that route. Actually, I'm speaking of the local agency technical assistance grant. Pardon me. The CASIF grant is what the North Bay North Coast Broadband Consortium is funded through, and so it was a renewal application for the consortia of Napa County, Sonoma County, Marin County, and Mendocino County. And on the next slide, we have a brief breakout of what was submitted. This was in the top boxes. It denotes that we're requesting $200,000 per year for 3 years, totaling $600,000. With the primary scope of work is to develop a structure of governance for a broadband entity, develop broadband policies that are uniform throughout the region, fund community education and outreach and engagement, develop a strategic plan or unite the strategic plans of the 4 counties, help with asset inventory, as well as collect data on broadband availability. And there's lots of news with regard to broadband data on the horizon. There should be new and better data, but that does pose a challenge to us in our applications and consideration of the SB 156 federal funds. More or less, the houses that are eligible are that a house is designated as unserved if it receives less than 25 megabits per second down and 3 megabits per second up. And the plans we develop need to build for projects that are 100 megabits down and 20 megabits up. And so currently, under the current model, the data is based on volunteered information from the service providers. And the policy is that if one household receives the service in a census block, then the census block is considered served. And so this poses a challenge to all applications. I mean, in large part because the data is not, I mean, you can't locate the one house that is regarded as served if they make the claim. But on the horizon, there will be a way to challenge. I mean, the FCC is developing new rules, and in a matter of 6 months, there should be new data sets. Anyway, the LATA grant also helps with environmental impact reports. I mean, it's providing templates for environmental impact reports. I mean, I think that the county will need to do a lot of, or the entities that apply for projects in Mendocino County will need to do a lot of the environmental impact studies. But there is an effort and funding requests for the consortium to assist with preparing environmental impact reports. Likewise, the consortium wants to develop construction standards and help with estimated costs. And so in working with the information we have with regard to middle mile infrastructure. So at this point, I'll pause briefly and see whether anyone has questions or wants to add anything to what I've said. Hearing none, I will say that we present these meetings quarterly, and the Middle Mile Advisory Committee meets monthly, but a lot of the process is over the course of years, and so there isn't a whole lot of updates necessarily between meetings. The actual detailed updates are few and far between. So I don't want to be repetitive, although we have some new members here. Um, as you see on this slide, the grant application for the consortium grant also contemplated what each county would be applying for with regard to the local agency technical assistance grant. As of yesterday, the consortium grant, the CPUC requested additional information with regard to our consortium grant. We were stressing one of the 5 items. As I said, it's an ongoing grant, and so we already had a work plan in each county that had 5 items to it, and 4 of those items we're not requesting funding for. Instead, we're only requesting funding for item number 4, which is summarized in the slide that you see. But they wanted to know what we were doing with regard to items 1, 2, 3, and 5. I think that Calvin Sandine, who is the director of the consortium, is diligently working to supply them with the revisions by today. And earlier today, the management team of the consortium met between 8:30 and 9:30 just to approve those changes. Mike Nichols was in attendance, and I might have him say a few words in the event that I left anything out while I go on mute because my phone is ringing. Mike, can you add anything?
Thanks, Jeff. No, I think you really covered everything that we discussed, specifically with regard to reviewing the plan and having all 4 counties sign on to the additional definitions, I guess, that Calvin was required to insert into the plan for approval.
All right. Well, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about the overall direction? And okay.
I was just going to simply say, Jeff, that as you point out, the decisions and the aha moments seem few and far between, but and maybe this isn't a great analogy anymore because glaciers are melting, but this is a glacial process, but we are finally seeing both money and action, even though it takes a lot of time. You know, the joke about government is sort of like the mating of elephants. It happens at a high level and takes a long time. And this is what it seems to be. I think that we're seeing through these grants, the kind of money starting to flow, both from the federal and the state, that are going to see changes for our broadband service in Mendocino County. It's nice to know that, you know, it's moving, it's finally really moving. It's not just talking anymore.
Well said, Philip. And to explain, the CPUC has proceedings that we track, and Mendocino County became a party to the proceedings and can provide comment. And there are comment periods that are usually 90 days. So every step that the CPUC takes requires the arrangement of a meeting and a lot of diligent work in the background. And then they present information and then make it publicly available for feedback that, as I say, takes 90 days, a window of opportunity for people to comment, and then they come out with a ruling. So that explains in part why it's so long between actionable information.
Jeff, this is Mike. Therein lies the problem, in that most of this money has to be encumbered by 2026, and delays on the part of CPUC and the state and feds in providing the information to the counties puts us in a bit of a bind at times.
You're absolutely right. I will advance to the next slide, and we're now on to the local technical assistance grant, which is also, as I said earlier, the County of Mendocino has submitted an application for 500 or nearly $500,000 in technical assistance, and that will be, as I understand, divided among design and engineering studies and a consultant for project management. But the background statewide, 15 million is available for the technical assistance grant. Permissible uses are environmental permitting, engineering, design activities, business studies, economic studies, marketing studies. But as I said, we're doing some design and engineering, as well as hiring a consultant to help with the process. This is pretty much same information, how much, and so $1 million, an entity could apply for as much as $1 million, but that would go through a resolutions process, and likewise, it would require a period of time for public feedback and would be reviewed. It would have to, the CPUC would have to meet, would have to draw up resolutions for those entities that were applying for more than 500,000 in a fiscal year, and then would have to wait for a meeting and have that approved. And I think there is a presumption that there will be another $15 million in subsequent funding years. And so rather than asking for $1 million now, we can ask for 500,000 now, get it approved more easily. And as every county seems to be doing, there is a presumption that there will be more funding made available in the future.
Okay. Good.
Great. So this slide, I mean, we have signed a JPA with RCRC, and in the name of the Golden State Connect Authority, and they are embarking upon projects that with certain density. I mean, we hope that they will be applying on our behalf, and Golden State Connect Authority could at some time in the future be a internet service provider in Mendocino County. Under the memorandum of understanding, they're really helping us with capacity. And they were actually instrumental in providing us a template for our LADA application. Let's see. Here is the technical assistance life cycle, and we are probably we're at the review application state. It is our application is at the CPUC, and they are reviewing it. But here is a basic timeline of the steps. We have been waiting for the time at which the portal opened and we could see what information was required. We filled out the application and returned it. And to my knowledge, we have not heard any, the CPUC hasn't reached back to us to ask any questions. But as I stated earlier, with the consortium grant, they did already reach back out and ask questions. And on the North Bay North Coast Broadband Consortium meeting of the management team earlier today, I believe it was Napa County said that they had already received inquiries about their application. Let's see. That is actually I'll open it up to questions and then cue somebody to show a short 5-minute video about Biari Networks, who does design and engineering at I think the video will speak for itself.
Hey, Jeff, I can do the video if you can allow me to share my screen. Right now, it won't let me.
Okay,